Welcome to my channel. In this video I intend to talk about my favorite greens. You know that I love to color flowers, I love to color botanical illustrations, landscapes, so of course green colors are extremely important for me. And since my first set of colored pencils, since my first set of watercolors, I always struggle with natural looking greens. For me, the bigger amount of natural greens I have in pencil sets, the more precious is to me. I really hope that one day some manufacturer will consider creating huge set of normal natural greens. So I think that today I will go through all my art supplies, watercolor, gouache, markers, water-soluble pencils and regular pencils, and we will discuss which greens I use more frequently and why I love particular colors. Let's start from watercolors. For me, I have two main green paints which I consider as a base if I need to color green in watercolor. One of them is sap green, one of them is Hooker's green. They are quite famous. I think that you can find them in color palette of any manufacturer. Problem is that because both colors are synthetic and they are usually manufactured from several pigments, actually the hue of sap green, hue of Hooker's green, it can vary from one manufacturer to another manufacturer. For example, here I have Hooker's green and also Hooker's green. I have sap green. I have sap green. You can see that difference is quite big. So for now, probably sap green is my favorite, and when I selected my preferable manufacturer, I tried to find sap green which consists not of three pigments as quite popular. For example, that's Winsor & Newton Cotman, it's student line, and here we have sap green which consists of three pigments. But that's sap green from Roman Schmal. It has two pigments and it has a very pleasant warm yellow-green color. As the opposite, Hooker, it's more regular, without yellow undertone, quite rich, and my favorite Hooker so far is by Italian brand Memory Blue. But I am sure that you will find them in many brands. Just check on real swatches before you actually purchase, because again, there are some Hooker's green which share the name but have totally different hue, and they can look slightly dirty because of the pigments. So that's my two favorite colors, but not very often I use them as they are. Usually to make more natural shades, especially before I had this lovely sap, and when I mostly worked with Hooker, I worked with blends, and my three main colors which I mixed with green, it was raw sienna, burnt sienna and natural tint. These colors, they also available in all color palettes. I think that any basic set has such colors. My paints are by Rosa Gallery. And the third, it's natural tint. Mine is by Royal Talents Van Gogh. So I think that with this base and with this additional colors you can mix plenty of different lovely natural green colors. That was a mix of Hooker and raw sienna. And mix of Hooker and burnt sienna gives you more olive green. I would call it autumn green. It's perfect when you want to do something where green color on the grass or on the leaves is already shaded. Of course, you can also mix them with yellow colors, so you will have very nice, vibrant lemon green colors. So as a base, I use these two, and then I start to blend them. With natural tint, you can get deeper shadows. Really very helpful when you need some variations. So sap, Hooker, and then try to blend them. I think that when you work with mixes, your greenery will look more realistic, more interesting, but those two base colors, they also are lovely. But you know that I'm a lazy person, and when I can use some green paints directly from the pans, that's my moment. Sometimes I love to mix, because yes, you can create very nice, look at this, very rich deep color. I think that it's very beautiful. It's a mix of sap with tint very unexpectedly. So sometimes I love to mix, but quite often I also love to use my watercolor paints from pans. And that's where my total champion, total favorite is Watercolors by Roman Szmal. He has a very nice variety of granulating greens. You can see here we have Aquarius green, probably his mainstream paint, where we have granulation between green and colder undertone, slightly bluish tint. In forest green, there is granulation between green and brown colors. There is this lovely autumn green with a vibrant lemon yellow. There are other lovely colors like this December green. So for me, because I am not a professional watercolorist, I use them for fun. And as I said, I am lazy. If you also want to use your watercolors directly from pens, then Roman Szmal watercolors, if they are available in your area, in your online or offline shops, I highly recommend them. And I highly recommend to play a little bit with your available mixes. Now about more granulating colors. If we speak about granulation, then two of my favorites, it's Schminke. I can say that I'm 100% happy with Schminke paints, mostly because I tried to use them mostly in coloring books, where paper is absolutely not suitable for them, and all those granulating effects, It doesn't appear on paper which we have in coloring books, but two colors I can recommend with all my heart. It's paints from their Shire collection. They have Tundra, they have Forest, Glacier, Galaxy, so there are several collections. So my favorite greens are from Shire. They have Shire Olive and Blue. I hope you can see those beauties. This one has like olive green, then regular green and bluish undertone. This one is slightly colder, so blue base is more visible. Both are very lovely. I am totally in love with them, and I think that in the whole collection I would recommend Nebel Rosa, Glacier Green, Tundra Violet. It's very difficult to use on non-watercolor paper, and those two. These two green colors, they are expensive, but they are really lovely and they can be used in our books where we have at least thick paper, maybe not very textured, but at least thick. So these two, Shire Blue, Shire Olive by Schmincke, I definitely can recommend. Next, let me show you my favorite Inktense pencils. On Inktense, I usually select which green I want to use, from a yellow green family or from more bluish green family. And it means for me selection of the main color, either iron green or Ionian green. This one has more regular undertone without yellow tint. Those two have more yellow or brown mixed together with green. Maybe let's start with this one. Starting with iron. Then as a mid-tone I love to use beach green. And something for the tip of the leaf usually. That's what I use for leaves. It could be felt, or maybe for tip sometimes I use something slightly more yellowish. But these three colors really work quite well. It's one of my most frequently used, my most classical combos. I always tend to use more warm green colors. Somehow for me green where there is a little bit of yellow looks slightly more natural. So I know this color combo, but I use it only if I have huge variety of leaves, like, you know, compositions of Leila Dule, where I definitely need to do many different hues of leaves. This one for me looks more natural, and Ionian green is one of my most popular colors. You actually can combine it with many other pencils from Inktense set, with light olive, with the same fern, with apple green. I just show you which pencils I use more frequently. If you want to purchase only several colors, if you have limited color palette, because many colors indeed are similar, especially in a light range. But in dark, I definitely recommend both iron and Ionian green. For leaves, probably that's my favorite color combo. If we talk about grass, I also love to use leaf green. By itself, maybe it's not the most beautiful, because it definitely has brownish undertone. Sometimes it's even look dirty, but as a base or as a shading color, it really looks quite well. You can also use it with previous colors as darkest shade. But you can also combine it with olivine. I think that olivine is the only one new pencil from their extended set which I included here. All those, they all are from the old set, from 79 old colors. And Fern, also a very lovely yellow-green hue which I absolutely love. So I would definitely recommend Ionian, Leaf, Spring, Iron and Felt if you really want only like minimal amount of green colors and still to be able to color leaves, grass with Inktense. Why I also love this warm green color combo, because by adding more Inktense pencils like Sicilian yellow, amber, mustard, you can get more yellow, more slightly brownish variations. So you can base on this color combo many different leaves and your green composition will look very alive. All the leaves will look slightly different. So I would recommend to think about these colors. The next art supplies which I want to discuss is gouache. When I was small, when gouache was very popular in our schools as a main media, together with watercolors, but gouache was probably the most popular thing. I always was shocked by green colors. For example, I will show you here basic colors which we can find even now in big sets of Rosa Gallery gouache. That's not professional set, that's when they just started to do gouache, and that's what they still do as a like a hobby kids. But look at all those green colors. I looked at them and like, oh my god, I am dying. It's awful. Especially if you're a beginner and you don't know what you need to mix. Especially when you started your art journey from watercolors. So somewhere in your mind you have this base that you can't mix white or black. It will totally impossible with watercolors. It's like basic rule. Of course, now we know that we can do it, but many years ago, the rule was with watercolors you don't use white or black in mixes. With gouache, you actually need to use black, you need to use white to create something more muted or more pastel. But, well, somehow my education was lacking in this base. So I just look at those colors and I thought that gouache is absolutely not possible to use for realistic landscapes. I didn't have enough knowledge. Now, of course, I can mix something better even from these shades. But again, I am a lazy person. So when I can purchase a normal hue of green from the tube or from the jar, I am very happy. And finally, we have on the market many manufacturers who did at least something more realistic. So now, of course, I don't use those ugly colors. I found several favorites, and mostly if I need gouache, I use as a base olive green. Sorry, I just need to blend it a little bit. So my favorite is olive green. If I want to study the new manufacturer of gouache, I always look first at their olive green. How beautiful is it? How interesting is the hue? So that's my base, olive green. Another basic color, if you don't want to use such a warm green. I like it. This jar is by Ukrainian manufacturer. We are very lucky that in our country, apart from Rosa Gallery, we have other manufacturers of gouache, and all paints now have very good quality, nice coverage, very good texture, and finally nice colors. Now Rosa Gallery also have lovely olive green, but they just have this big jar, so I use this one. And as a slightly different hue, it's chrome oxide green, color which I never loved, but which can be used in mixes. Actually, it's very similar like with sap and hooker. Green with yellow undertone and without. So that's two main colors which I recommend to purchase. Again, just look at swatches. I have, for example, this Polish chrome oxide green. It's nice, deep, and if you add to it a little bit of indigo, you will have very lovely color combo. That's how I usually use them. Chrome oxide green plus a little bit of indigo, and you have variation of cold green colors. With olive green there are even more possibilities to mix. Here I try to mix something quickly, depending from proportion, from the mix of indigo and that's chrome oxide green, and that's plus indigo. You can get very nice, very deep colors, and of course you can continue adding a little bit of white, so you will have also cold tone but slightly lighter. Definitely I consider this mix very helpful. So as one of the base tubes of gouache, I can recommend chrome oxide green and indigo. When I work with olive green, I mostly love to mix it with pale yellow colors. Sometimes it could be also raw sienna or ochre, but I also love Naples yellow. It's very pale, and when you mix it with olive green, you can get plenty of lovely... sorry guys, I made a mess on the table, so I will return to the mixing in a moment. I definitely don't want a green spot on my table, so I will clean and I will return. When I mix my olive green with white, I can get this very soft, almost like pistachio color. Sorry, I never knew how to pronounce this very difficult word. So it's lovely, but for me it sometimes lacks vibrancy. It could be very helpful. For example, I can use this mix in Teresa Goodrich books when I just need to imitate a little bit of grass on top of the hill, or simply mask black lines. But for me, again, I dropped again something. Sorry guys. So for me, better mix I can get when I highlight olive green, not with white, but with any available pale yellow. For example, this Naples yellow. And it immediately looks a little bit more cheerful, more warm, even more clean. Here sometimes you can see this white undertone, so it looks slightly weathered. When I mix with pale yellow, it works better. So of course you can experiment further and to mix your base olive green with ochre, with raw sienna, and you will have natural shades, nothing similar to these ugly colors which frightened me for so many years. If you're also lazy, you can search through manufacturers, and now we have also other lovely colors pre-mixed. For example, I love this hue which is called Cinnabar Green Pale. So when I am absolutely lazy, I can even use those two colors from jars, not mixing anything at all. Of course, you can get it from mixing previous one with cadmium yellow, but when I can support manufacturer, and I love this Polish brand, that's a Renaissance, when I can have lovely colors straight from their package, that's for me. Gouache usually is very cheap art supplies, so olive from any brand, and chrome oxide green, indigo, and also like Naples yellow, just 4 tubes, and you will be able to mix very interesting greens and then to continue your experiments. If we talk about acrylic gouache, you know that this one isn't permanent. You can add water and to activate it in any time. By Turner, I have this series of Japanese colors. They are mostly either pastel, muted colors, very interesting. But their downside is that they have quite thick texture, not always suitable for all books, but because of their colors I love. And unique color which I can recommend to you, it's this absolutely gorgeous pastel olive. I love it. I love everything here, how it works, how it looks. This one I definitely can recommend, and that's Turner Pastel Olive. I think that next we will talk about alcohol markers. Next, let's talk about alcohol markers. I will show you Ohuhu because that's the main set which I currently use, even if I am angry at Ohuhu because they again stopped to deliver to Ukraine. Well, thank you, dear Ohuhu. But anyway, let me show you some of the lovely markers which I use quite often, so I'm not even sure that they are still workable. So first, it's this very pleasant combo of grayish colors. Next, also I would call it cool greens. Starting with this one. With alcohol markers, I didn't want to achieve like very realistic hue. For me, here it's important to get 2 or better 3 colors in one color palette so I can get gradient, even if they don't look realistic. Still, I use them mostly for Russell Hampson books, and there such vibrant leaves it's still perfect. So I just try to find combos of 2-3 markers which I can use. That's G9 and G5. Next, let's grab those. Which one is lighter? I can't guess from the... this one. So as the lightest color, we start with this one of the best, very pleasant G. And slightly darker. I would say that it's my favorite color combo. And all of them I got from smaller set of markers, so it's a very nice set, such lovely colors. And you can see from the swatch that you can even extend it using one of these very light colors if you want to make your leaf lighter. So even in smaller set, we have very pleasant green colors. For me, that's definitely color combo which I use the most. And another one, maybe let's try to check this group. This one is much more yellow green, but still lovely. That was family of yellow, and it was number 7. Well, it depends, of course, how many colors you want, how vibrant you want to have your leaves, but definitely all this family of JY, they are good. Well, sometimes instead of this number 3, I use more yellowish 5, so this one, and this one. And sometimes I also add darker color. It works quite well to shade here, and it's the same family. Number is 42. So that's my favorite color combos. And next, of course, we will talk about regular pencils.